Good morning to all. I welcome you all for our mega event, Design Thinking for Novice, where we have seven great speakers from different companies who will be talking about design thinking with their experiences, insights, and case studies. So we have the third speaker for today, Anmol Tuteja, who is a product owner from Srijan Technologies. He's currently focusing on digital learning experience and e-learning for large-scale enterprises. He has been a leader and managed the entire life cycle of multiple enterprise products to provide digital experience for the employees and customers of many fast-paced growing organizations. So he has worked extensively on digital learning, CMS, collaboration, e-commerce, shipping, business management applications. We welcome Anmol Tuja on the stage. Over to you, Anmol.
Hey, thanks, Rohit, for that wonderful introduction, and thanks for having me and giving this opportunity to speak. Okay, so I think we have talked a lot about design thinking today, and essentially, at least what it is from the framework perspective. Now, I'm gonna just talk about the first part, which is the empathy part, which is in the process, and let's see if we can leverage some good information and learn more about this concept, which is most often misunderstood and not performed really well, which basically leads to the failure of the whole design thinking process. So about me, Rohit has already introduced me, but a quick glance. So I have 9+ years of experience in this industry, software industry. I'm an agile evangelist. I've done Scrum Master role, product owner currently, tech lover. These are my details to contact me for anything. So let's start the presentation. So yeah, I think we've seen this diagram 3 times already. This is the third time we're seeing it for what's design thinking. So it starts with empathy, define, ideate, prototype, test. But what I'm going to focus today is just on empathy because that is the first part of the whole process. And if we fail over there, I think the whole process just fails over. So I think we have heard about a lot of confusing terms which are present right now that used interchangeably at our own convenience, and we really don't understand what all of these mean. Some of us might know, but for a lot of us, it's still a puzzle. So I'm going to uncover them. So if you see pity, sympathy, empathy, compassion, all look similar, mean something similar, but there is a vast difference in what they are. So starting with empathy, I'll try to cover all the three, but since my presentation is focused towards empathy, I'll start with the dictionary definition just to know what does dictionary say about empathy. So it's the capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing from within their frame of reference. That is the capacity to place oneself in others' position. So pretty straightforward definition, but actually what does it mean? If you see the diagram, there's a link between brain to heart. So essentially what we are saying when we are empathizing is we are connecting our heart to the brain of the user, and we are basically trying to understand their problem from their reference point and not our reference point. So I'll come with a case just to explore this concept a bit more. So in my initial days in the career, when I was just starting with product ownership, I was assigned given an assignment to work with an admin support guy who was working on an application. He was using a form to fill the uh, to get the travel details of anyone who was requesting for a travel booking and trying to populate in a system and the application he had. But I was called to basically redesign and think what problem he was facing. So when I went, to meet the end user, this was kind of the perceptions I had. So I'd done many such applications before, workflow kind of applications where you have a form, you basically fill it up, you submit it, and then that was the mindset I had. I designed many applications like that before for other business needs and workflows. I had a questionnaire in mind which I had to ask. pretty much format oriented, how we are structured and brain wired to ask questions. I thought this meeting will be quick, and I just thought I just need to know what and why this particular item is needed. So I went in the meeting. We are already always told that to write a user story, we need these three things. As a user, I want this so that I can do something. So similar to get those answers, I was kind of my interview was going in this direction to ask questions which relate to how I can write the user story and understand the problem with respect to this format which is given to us by the framework experts and whoever. So I asked the person who needs it, the agent needs it, who's booking tickets, why is it needed, what is needed. So he said he needs a confirmation pop-up before the form is booked so that he doesn't submit the form by mistake, because he was kind of filling the forms wrongly all the time, and he wanted to ensure that everything is filled before submission. So after this questionnaire, I just knew that what the customer wants. I kind of knew the business need also, and I felt sorry for the user because he was in this problem. So this was the approach and the end result. Now the behavior which was in play was, I recognized there is a need. I kind of knew why it is needed. The solution was already in my head, and I just wanted to deliver it within time, budget, quality. So actually, what I was doing was I was just being sympathetic to the user. I cared about his problem, but however, I cared it from my perspective. I didn't give much thought on what the actual feeling of that person was while he was doing or going through the problem he was describing. So essentially, this is the first, uh, you know, answer to the all the confusing terms that I had mentioned before. Sympathy is caring about the problem, but from your own perspective and not from the other person's. So now imagine this situation: you are sick, you go to a doctor, you say, "Okay, I have fever." Doctor says, "Why do you think you have fever? Why do you have it?" The patient replies, "I probably ate something bad." Doctor said, "Okay, just have this dose in, you'll be fine." And also imagine while you're asking the doctor, he's also talking to another patient on phone, or is busy doing something else. So what impact will it have to your psyche? Would you be able to you know uh, uh, tell or describe your problem or trust the doctor? Probably not, right? So here is the gap, which was clearly in front of me. So the gap for the user was the user feeling that he was heard? Probably not, because questions were too direct. It was just following a format. There was no human element. So uh, from user's perspective, he probably wasn't feeling that he was being heard properly about his problem. Similar to the doctor-patient relationship. Was the user bringing out the actual why? Probably not. Again, because he wasn't being drilled enough to think why he actually needs it. Is it something he definitely needs it, or it's something he's just asking because just because he doesn't have it, he has seen other places or other ways. Was the user in comfort zone while describing the situation? Again, no, because we didn't make him comfortable. We were being too direct, just being sympathetic to the user. We just thought, okay, we'll just ask you a question, deliver the solution, and get away there. Was the user talking to a friend or a robot? Probably a robot. Again, like I said, because we had gone with a fixed set of questions, mindset, and the way we were talking. And as a human, we all know that we are better describing our problem to a friend rather than to a robot or a person who is asking us direct questions without because we are humans, we are emotionally connected to each other. What was the gap for me? Did I get to know what the user actually what actually user wants that will actually solve this problem? I somewhat knew it after that, because direct questions are, I mean, could answer some things to some extent, but not completely. I didn't know the actual why till the end. Do I know that the user actually knows the problem? So even I didn't know that the user also knows the problem actually that he's facing or not, because we were just following the user story format. I need this so that, or blah blah blah. So how do we solve this problem? So in the four confusing terms which I mentioned before, I didn't talk about pity because that's already out of question. Pity just means I just acknowledge your problem. I don't want to do anything about it. Sympathy means I care about your problem, uh, and I might do something about it, but from my perspective. Now comes the third level where I say, okay, I am now feeling your problem. And what it's doing is when we go to the third stage, we are engaging more. This is the level of engagement that we are increasing. So pity is out of question for or any of us in design thinking or trying to develop anything to solve anyone's problem. Sympathy might help to some extent, but if you want to really get to the root of the issues and problems, empathy is something where we want to strive for, and that's when you start feeling the problem yourself from their perspective and not yours. So I started reading about empathy, what it meant, what was it, how do I try it. So what I got to know was, we need to have a beginner's mindset. So essentially, when we go and talk to the user, we just forget everything, whatever we taught, whatever knowledge we have about any system, any situation, or any problem. We try to observe the non-verbal cues. So essentially, the sometimes the the user who is explaining the problem is not direct or very vocal about uh, what he actually wants or what problem he's facing. So we need to essentially also observe the body reactions, the how he's feeling or kind of face that he's making while we are asking the questions, because that tells a lot about the problem. Sometimes because if we go to a user who's not educated well enough. For example, in a village, if we are trying to develop a farmer's app, just an example, they might not be fully able to explain what they have. And that happens, again, taking the doctor patient analogy. Some patients are not able to just explain what they want or what problem they are facing. So we need to observe the non-verbal cues. Uh, be fully present, which means give all your attention, undivided attention, while you are in that space with the user. So not thinking about anything else, showing to the user that you are with him physically but mentally or somewhere else. You're on phone. All those things need to go away. So we need to show that we are fully present. Suspend judgment. This is quite important. So I'm not saying we don't have to judge, because we'll have to judge eventually when we're trying to solve a problem for the user. But when we are in the space with the user going through his problems, we need to suspend judgment at that point in time. It might be difficult because as humans, we are always judging on situations, things that are coming up. But when we have to practice empathy, we need to suspend judgment for that point, and then encourage storytelling. Just ask the user to tell situations where things are happening, how they are happening. So that you are the user is able to tell you more about the problem that he's facing or anything. And then lastly, explore all the emotion. Is he angry, sad? What type of feeling he is in? So, lastly, the key mantra is just listen, listen, listen. We need to talk less and listen more. That's when we'll be able to, get to the root cause of the problem and design a solution, an empathetic solution that should be loved by the end users. So again, a different app, something similar to what I was building now, with all the knowledge and empathy in place, and the characteristics which I mentioned in the second slide. Now, how I approach my conversations with the user is like I just start with things like, "How is your day going so far?" So this is a question just to make you comfortable, assess your current mood, emotion. Will you, probability that will you give me a right answer today or not? So if person, for example, is saying is from an actual interview, pretty frustrating, trying to book tickets for 100 people standing outside my office through the app. Now, instantly, you know that this person is already very disturbed today, and probably everything would be a problem for him, and everything would be a high priority problem for him. So that's the first part you need to assess. And then, secondly, going to deeper questions like, do you like your job in general? Uh, you know, job in the sense the problem which we are trying to solve in a particular job or work that we're trying to do. So just trying to assess the general user behavior. So quick answer, yes, I like the job. I'm serving people to get tickets easily. So this indicates us that generally the user is quite enthusiastic about and quite attached to the problem. If he doesn't like his job, probably you give him anything, he'll be like, okay, whatever, I don't care much. Uh, so how you're trying to use this app, you're observing with this question, I'm trying to observe the user's problem, emotional, and going with the beginner's mindset. So now I'm trying to ask the user, you tell me how are you trying to use this app. I'm not asking your what is your problem with this app, what is your ask, what do you need, what do you want me to solve. I'm just asking him, how are you trying to use this app. So this will give me a lot of and the observation mindset will give me a lot of cues around what's the problem, and whenever he's user is using the app in front of me, what emotions are coming out. So some answers and just behavior. I've been booking tickets nonstop. I have to go back and forward on the page and click submit button too often. That's causing a lot of errors. He's frustrated, all that. Then encouraging storytelling. So tell me about an incident when you were really frustrated with the current system. So I'm encouraging him to think more about situations where the problem was, because there could be times when user just says, okay, I have a problem, but it's not that big. It might be a very small problem, but he's making it big. But when he himself thinks about, okay, this situation wasn't that bad. Okay, why do I need this? Okay, then conversations start changing. Uh, Again, a sample answer, it was around Diwali when there were too many people, blah, blah, blah. So he just starts and went on and told me about the whole situation and what happened during that when he was trying to use the app. Then I asked for how bad were the consequences. So now I'm encouraging user to think about the worst case, so that for the user to know how big the problem it is for him, maybe financially or uh, you know with respect to anything, with respect to experience, time, anything. So again, he's feeling horrible. He made 2 wrong bookings out of 10. So how bad they were? How bad were those 2 wrong bookings for you? So again, you drilling down more using 5 hours to get the root cause. Are the consequences really that bad for that person? Now he said, okay, those 2 bookings were small monetarily since I had to deal with bus bookings, so they're not too big. So this whole interview changes how users start thinking about the problem and sharing the problem with me while I was interviewing. What it brought was, I started getting to know what was behind that why. So we are trying to know what was why, but what was behind that why. This person is risk averse. He wants more security in the application. He's frustrated during the peak times. He's impatient if things don't work on the app. He's generally happy and energetic guy, probably likely to use technology. So I'm trying to get a map of this user and trying to know so that the solution which I provide eventually makes more sense for him rather than him asking for a solution which probably is just not was there. So techniques that help me usually these are frameworks which can help you if you apply. So when you go through that interview, straight after that interview or while you're interviewing, if the user is okay with it, we can start mapping these answers that we're getting into 4 buckets when what the user is saying, thinking, feeling, doing. So for any question, what the user says, what is he actually thinking, how is he feeling, happy, sad, and what is he actually doing while is he actually doing what he needs to do while performing that activity, or is he doing something else? So those are the questions. Those mapping really helps us, because when we design the solution, we come back to this map and say, okay, our solution, does it feel good for the user? What will he actually do? What he's supposed to do? Things like that. Is there a mismatch between what he's saying and what is he doing? So just from that example, the user is saying, I'm facing an issue with my existing booking system. He's thinking incorrect booking is causing the business loss. He's doing something, submits the business form hurriedly in peak hours, and he's feeling frustrated. So now I know from reaction of the user in advance, and helps in designing solutions. So how this map helped in designing solutions? So I have a couple of solutions. First is give this user a confirmation pop-up. This will give a sense of security. Okay, before the form is submitted, I'll get a confirmation pop-up. But when he has to do too many bookings, these pop-ups might, frustrate him at peak hours, which he has already told me about in his interview. Again, a solution to give an undo button. So don't give a confirmation pop-up. Give an undo button in case he realizes in the first 10-15 minutes, okay, I've booked something wrong. So this will be faster and less frustrating. Will give some sense of security, but it's still risky because the undo option might remain for 60 seconds and then the booking just goes through. But it will be definitely faster. He'll feel faster but less secure. Now, solution three, keeping those map items in mind. So what is the most empathetic one? Give an undo button, ask for confirmation only if transaction values are greater than 10,000 rupees. So he hasn't thought about it, but when we presented the solution, will be the user will feel less frustrating because it's faster. It's the user not getting the confirmation button each time. It's less riskier because undo button remains for some time. And if the transaction is greater than 10,000, he feels okay. It's less risky. If the transaction is greater than 10,000, I'll be asked before submission the form. So these kind of solution, made most empathetic one to solve the problem for that person. Few outcomes of empathy maps. One is user persona. This is most widely used. So when we are characterizing a user based on his demographic, age, everything else, this empathy maps really helps us giving some of the information which we can put it in the persona for that particular user. And obviously, a user persona is goes beyond the empathy. But empathy map just usually talks about a given situation or a problem, how the person is reacting or thinking in that situation, whereas the user persona is an overall description of that kind of user, what is his age, where he comes from, all that stuff. Is that making a difference in the solution? That gives us the next level of information. So this is one use case. So now, what is the beauty of using empathy in design systems? The user started forming a trust relationship with me. He talks more, I talk less, and I get to know what he actually needs. The user started discovering the root causes of the why. So it, if he's asking for something, he's also discovering while we are talking that why he actually needs it. The result was able to tap the subconscious mind of the user. I was able to understand the root cause of the problem. I built a rapport, and the adoption is also increased because the solutions are directly tickling the right emotions of the user who's actually. So what changed for me? I became a better listener. Definitely that helps when you're in any space, not just while thinking, but you being empathetic, you become a better listener. You become more compassionate. You try to make better connections, relations, and started considering human emotions in designing solutions. So the end results are adopted well because when you strike because the end user is a human and humans are emotional, and if you tickle the right emotions with your solution, your product is going to be successful and stand out in the market. Lastly, when Barack Obama's famous farewell speech he quoted from Atticus Finch, that you never really understand a problem until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around it. So this is the fourth level, which probably is difficult in our situation, but if we have research budget and things like that, we can definitely try. This is the last step, which is called compassion. This is basically when you actually get to relive that person's problem, you are basically trying to play that role in actual and experiencing the problem yourself with the system. So essentially, in this booking travel agent booking kind of a situation, I get to do that job for him for a day or two, or part of the research, whatever is applicable. And that will be the last step of engagement, and that will actually bring about a lot of things which the user might not able to explain. So in Bollywood, we have seen it a lot of times. For example, Sushant playing Dhoni, Farhan Akhtar playing Milka Singh, Priyanka Chopra playing Mary Kom. They all actually, when they train with the actual user. They try to live their lives for a brief moment. They call it method acting, but what they're doing is they're actually reliving and trying to understand what challenges and problems they faced in their real life, so that when they perform that role in movies, it becomes easier for them, and it's more relatable to the audiences. So I will conclude: humans are a complex entity with a lot of emotions. Each human has its own set of knowledge, environmental conditions, feelings. To design a system that can help the user, to use, we need to understand the why. To understand this why of a user, we need empathy, as we can never fully understand that why. We'll just know what's the why. We'll never understand it. And it will not be 100% that we understand it, but empathy will definitely get us closer. And lastly, systems have to interact with humans, and emotions are in play for success or failure of your product. So always needs to keep that in mind. Thank you. Any questions?
That was a great insightful session, Anmol, and thank you for your session. So we have a couple of questions, and considering time, we just take one or two.
Mhm.
So first question is from Swati Chandra. For
Mhm.
empathy, are empathy maps and persona complementary to each other? Is it duplicate work to go for both?
No, it is not. Empathy maps are a feed for your user persona. The user persona is basically giving you the all the demographic profile information about a user. What is his age? Where is he working? uh, Anything, where what department he is in, uh, and whereas empathy map is specific to a problem that we're trying to solve, and how is he feeling or reacting in general to that specific problem or situation. So empathy map feeds into user persona, but user persona is a complete end-to-end picture of a user, and not the situation where he is in. Whereas empathy map is basically specific to certain situations or problem that person's facing.
We have a second question from Saurav Bansal. How to
Mhm.
brainstorm ideas once we know the problem through empathy phase of design thinking?
Okay. So brainstorming comes from various. So you have inputs from the user, what's the actual problem, and you have your own understanding. Then you can, find similar solutions in the market. You do your own research if certain solutions are available, how they are working, and what those solutions. Or you can take the innovation route. So you have three things: either the user provides you a solution, the second, you do your own research with other competing products which solve that particular problem if they fit into the user's world. If not, then you try to innovate and make more research and ideate. And then ideating is not just one step that you solve a problem by just one idea. You go back to the user with your one idea, either from the environment, a user's own solution idea, or innovation that you have done, and then you see again that is it really working. If not, you come back to the drawing board, brainstorm again.
All right. That's great. Thanks, Anmol. It was a great, and I believe our participants have got a great idea about design thinking from your side, specifically the empathy part.